Hello there, everyone. Happy Higher Self Wednesday and happy day to you. My name is Karen White, and I am the author of this wonderful book called Changing the Game Plan. This is my 12-step journey of how I work the steps with 4 sponsors over my 33 plus years in the 12-step programs. I'm so excited to bring that book to you. It is available on Amazon.com. It is meant to work with somebody, a sponsor, a counselor, a therapist, but you have to work that book with someone. It is my experience, strength, and hope, so take what you like and leave the rest. I am so excited to be here. Have we been learning so much about these steps or what? Every time I teach these, I feel like I am the audience because I am just learning so much, and I hope you are as well. There is a bunch of book videos already out there on YouTube, and so every Wednesday I will be bringing these videos to you live by noon on YouTube. So go out and enjoy all your videos. I have been getting a lot of response. If you'd like to reach me, please go on programchild.net. Programchild.net, and there is a contact form there, and you can contact me about meetings, whatever you need to talk to me or ask me about. Use that link. So I'm excited. Let's jump in. I think I've covered everything for the beginning, and let's get into working the steps. I always say that the steps are what we are here for. We are here to work the steps. The steps are what takes care of us. The tradition is what teaches us how to do relationships. And so one of the things that I always like to do with the steps is, and I believe that Bill and Dr. Bob and the rest of the great people that wrote and left this wonderful big book to us. And by the way, the big book is the Bible for the 12-step program, so I don't care if you're in a non-program or you're in an addictive program, whatever program you're in, you should have the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous in your books, because that is the book that teaches the 12 steps. That's the original book that our steps come from. So I'm in both rooms. I'm in the addictive side of this program, and I'm in the non-side of this program. And no matter what side I'm working, we're always going to be working it from the big book. Now, one of the things I do want to talk to you about is that when I say alcoholic, because I'm doing a lot of studying from the 4 books, the original 4 books, which is the Big Book of Alcoholics Anonymous, the AA 12 and 12, the Al-Anon 12 and 12, and the ODAT. So whenever I say alcoholics or whatever, you put your program, where there's Gamblers Anonymous, Overeaters Anonymous, CODA, NAR Anonymous, whatever program you're in, Sex Anonymous, whatever, you just take that word out because your program came from this literature, okay? So let's get started. Step 1, woo, the beginning of the steps. And remember, you have to start with step 1 to get to step 12, and these steps are meant to work in order. Step 1, we admitted we were powerless over alcohol, that our lives have become unmanageable. I believe in the definition of these words. We means I and the rest of the group. That includes me, you and I. And in all these steps, there's always the we's, the thus, the us's, whatever, because this program is not meant to work alone. And so we is the first word. Admitted means to allow scope, to concede as true or value. We means I, the rest of the group. That includes me, you, and I. Were means to be, and that's the singular form that we use, were. Powerless means lacking strength or power, helpless and totally ineffectual, without power or authority. Love that. Over means in or at a position above or higher than. Alcohol, which is a colorless, flammable liquid. And I love that they use flammable in there because it is explosive. Any addiction that you're in is explosive. That means used to refer to one's designation, implied, mentioned, or understood. Ours means belonging to or associated with all people or people in general. Lives mean pure. The lives means the course of existence or sum of experience, action that constitutes a person's existence. Anything or anyone considered to be as precious as life. Beautiful. Become means to grow or come to be. I've always loved that word, become, because I think that the steps make us become. They make us growing and come to be what we want to be. Unmanageable means difficult or impossible to manage. Well, we've been having fun. If you haven't seen the last couple of videos, go back. I start with the big book always, and we've been the big book. But last week I went into the AA 12 and 12, which is yummy. And I'm going to be back in the AA 12 and 12 today. So get your AA 12 and 12 book, and let's join in and see where we're at. I'm going to start on page 22 today with this, and I'm going to always be reading my highlighted areas that I highlighted throughout this and discussing everything with you. Page 22, I'm going to start with, I actually need to take this from the very last word on page 21. It says, the principle that we shall find no enduring strength until we first admit complete defeat is the main taproot for which our whole society has sprung and flurried. It goes on to say, when first challenged to admit defeat, most of us revolted. We had approached AA expecting to be taught self-confidence. Then we had been told that so far as alcohol is concerned, self-confidence was no good whatever. In fact, it was totally a liability. And this is so interesting because I came in the program. I had no idea what a 12-step program was. I knew nothing about AA. I knew nothing about Al-Anon. If you want to hear my story on me, go out to programchild.net, and my story is out there. But I did not know anything, and it's free. And I did not know anything about a 12-step program. Never heard of it, never discussed. So, you know, coming into this program, my very first meeting, I was so lucky, was on steps 1, 2, and 3. So I love how it says, you know, it says the first challenge in admitting defeat, that when we come to AA, we're expected to be taught self-confidence. I really didn't know what I was going to be taught. The only thing that was told to me is that there were people that were like me that were going through things that I was going through because I was 12-stepped into the program by a counselor. And so I did not know what to expect. But as I was in there, I was wondering, you know, how long it was going to take. I really was. I thought, oh, how long is this going to take? And it's so funny, by my second meeting, I heard that I was going to be in here forever. In order to complete this, you should stay in these rooms and this literature and everything forever, because you're constantly evolving. And as you're constantly evolving, you're learning more things. I can't tell you how many times I've done step 1 in my lifetime. I do step 1 all the time. Today I have learned to use step 1 in my life, so I pull from it all the time. That's what keeps me from going off on somebody in a store or raging in the car and all that, and having temper tantrums. Step 1, because step 1 is the defeat. And step 1 is letting you know that you can't do anything about it unless you get help. And so I love the part that it says that we, as so far as alcohol is concerned, self-confidence was no good whatever. In fact, it was a total liability. Now listen to this. It says, our sponsors declare that we were the victims of a mental obsession so subtle, powerful, that no amount of human willpower could break it. None of our willpower, nothing that I could do was helping. And I think I talked about it on one of the videos. I watch myself in this program on my addictive side. I would always say, you know, as soon as I binged out or whatever and got to the end or whatever, I would always say that was it. You always come to that part where you think, that's it, I'm not going to do it again. But once you go back into it, it's like it calls you or something. I don't know. It's just the craziest thing. You do it again and again, and then you binge out and you don't want to do it again. And that's why it's so good to have to be near these rooms, because these rooms can break that cycle and get you taken out of those areas of that willpower that you think that you can help yourself, because you cannot. Only these rooms and a sponsor in this program can help you in working through the steps. And I say, of course, all in all, our God of our understanding, which I love today. He's the first that can help you. But God uses people to help us. It goes on to say, it goes on, I'm going to come down. I love what it says about here. It says, the tyrant alcohol wield a double-edged sword over us. And I love that, because whatever room you're in, Gambler Anonymous, Overeaters Anonymous, CODA, Al-Anon, everything, whatever your addiction is, whatever your disease is, your sickness, it's a double-edged sword over you, and it's just cutting you up. You know, it's just like, And I was so glad to be able to get the help that I needed in these rooms to get all this stuff done, and finish reading that whole chapter on page 22. Excellent chapter on step 1. It's the second one. I'm going to go down to the third chapter because I'm trying to cover a lot in 30 minutes. It says, in AA pioneering time, none but the most desperate cases could swallow and digest the impalpable truth. Even these last graspers often had difficulty in realizing how hopeless they actually were. It goes, but a few did, and when these laid hold of AA principles with all the fervor which the drowning sea's life preserves, they almost invariably got well. Isn't that amazing? If you just hold on to the principles and hold on to the fact that you are powerless and your life had become unmanageable, and realize that that is not defeat. That is the strength of being able to learn how to live life and let go and let God. In page 23, it goes on to say, many less desperate alcoholics tried AA but did not succeed because they could not make the admission of hopelessness. That is so powerful, because there's so many words in the step that mean a lot. I'm just pulling out 2 because, you know, one of the words that really touched me in this step was over, because over means in or at a position above or higher than. Taking this step is going to get you higher and above what you can ever imagine. And it's funny how it says powerless and then it says over. And you know, being unmanageable, it's so funny. I just went through a situation here recently where my higher power, which I choose to call God today, and even a greater name than that, but I had to go through this period of trying to get out of another addictive situation, because it's always one after another. I don't care what it is. If you're addictive in this program, you have so many things that you have to overcome, and it doesn't matter, non or whatever. Once you get over the controlling, You have to get over the finances, the spending, the different things. It's just all kind of stuff that we have to do with appetite, eating, anything. We just have to do it. And the brokenness sometimes of that powerlessness, the brokenness is what just, the brokenness for me was what made me humble. And the brokenness made me be able to realize to let go and let God come in and help me. And once I could open up my heart to let God and others come in and help me and show me that way of life, I could start practicing things that I knew, because I always say this programs like mentholatum or something, it always just penetrates when you're in the rooms, you're hearing the people talk and it's penetrating you and you're thinking, oh, I went through that, I'm going through that, or and they did like this, and you can tell that this stuff really works, and you want it and you want to practice it because you want to get there. You really do, especially once you come into these rooms. It's just a matter of fighting all those addictive behaviors that we have. And so therefore, everything that I had to go through, I had to do it at a step one level, whether it was my addiction to food, whether it was my addiction to controlling, whether it was my addiction to whatever my addiction was, whatever, I had to do it through being powerless and realizing it was making my life unmanageable, that I could not manage it. I could not manage it. And that didn't mean that I was a stupid person. That just means that in life, certain things are out of our control. And without such spiritual help, we just can't manage it. And so that's why it's so good to be in these rooms and go through this. It says in page 23, since step one requires the admission that our lives have become unmanageable, how could people such as these take this step? And it goes on to say, I love this. It is obviously necessary to raise the bottom the rest of us had hit to the point where it would hit them by going back in our own drinking histories. And this tells you how to work the steps, and this is a lot of what I use in this book, Changing the Game Plan. It says, we could show that years before we realized it, we were out of control. It says that our drinking even then was no mere habit, that it was indeed the beginning of a fatal progression. I love that. And it goes on to say, I'm going to come down a little bit more. It says, it was then discovered that when one alcoholic had planted in the mind of another alcoholic the true nature of his mentality, that person can never be the same again. That's why we need help, because we have to go back into these things. And that's a real, on page 23 of the AA 12 and 12. I am reading this literature to you and we're talking about it, but go back and read this because it's really good, because it talks about the process of how we have to go back. We have to get to the root of what's making us sick. And that's what I wrote about in my workbook. I wrote the procedures that I take with my sponsees, and to get them through what my sponsor took me through to get to this place. And to discover that I needed help. And it's so funny because I think what happened, I can only speak for me, my experience, strength, and hope, is that I had always taken my problems to the wrong people, and therefore coming in this room, I was afraid of getting hurt. I can tell you now, I have never been hurt in this room. I have gotten nothing but help in this room. I have told people some of the worst things you could imagine, to me at least. And they have loved me, hugged me, called me the next day. We're still friends. We're still going to dinner. This is the most awesome thing that you can do, is to go to meetings and get involved into this program and get the help you need. I don't know what I would have done had I not come to step one and realized that I was powerless over alcohol and that my life had become unmanageable, and accepted that defeat for myself. And because I did, it caused a strength because of my humility that was brought about at the change of accepting that, and that I could carry on and get better and better and better and better, because after that comes 11 more steps that will truly change your life over 360 degrees. Well, that's all that I have for today. I am so excited about this. I hope you're having a ball with learning all these steps. Go back over all this literature and read it for yourself. It's too much to be able to even probably cover. I could probably do one whole month of step one. That is just how much it is to cover. So I'm just dibbing and dabbing and sharing my experience, strength, and hope. So go back and do your reading. But remember, I always say, go to meetings, get a sponsor, a counselor, a therapist, whatever you need to do. Go to meetings, get it done, get help, and get better. And until we meet again, blessings over you, great people.